of Customer Experience here at Corbett. I'm joined by my colleague, George. I'll let George introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. George Klopp, Chief Technology Officer, also here at Corbett.
So George and I would both like to share a trend that we see for 2021, and I will go first here. So Corbett is what we call a workplace experience platform. So the worlds of digital communications and enabling the digital workplace has sort of come together, and our platforms help the enterprise reach and engage with their employees or audiences that might extend to guests, students, whoever's using the type of platform. So the trend I'd like to talk about today is one you're probably familiar with, targeting. But targeting for internal communications is pretty new. Most communicators or organizations are not doing this just yet. They might be scratching the surface of it with email and distribution lists, but the opportunity with targeting is to deliver relevant content. So you have to assume a company that's of thousands of people in size, tens of thousands, maybe someone like Amazon, millions of employees, that there's a great diverse gap between what people want and need in terms of communications and access to tools and data and information to do their job, as well as what they're interested in. So targeting can enable that, and end of day, all communicators are looking for positive engagement, and engagement can only really be driven by relevance. So when you take a look at targeting is not as much the trend. The trend is the data that you will use for targeting. So ask yourself, do you have an HR system? Do you have data on all employees beyond just their first name, their last name, and their employee ID, and perhaps their email? Does every employee have an email? Does every employee have access to single sign-on or other methods of authentication? And in all of that, is your data clean? So are there attributes associated to each employee so you know their role, their department, their tenure, their location, and any other way you want to slice and dice this? The trend is really how companies, whether that's through IT, HR, communications, whoever owns that HR system, is keeping that data clean and maintained so the solutions that you're using, like Corbett, to deliver this workplace experience can be fully realized through that data.
Yeah, exactly right, Greg. And today I want to talk about enabling the digital workplace through the data that Greg was talking about, through these enterprise, sometimes real-time mission critical data sets. So employees, in order to really have the data and the power of the data, they need access to systems across the enterprise. They need access to CRM data, they need access to ERP, warehouse management, supply chain, and a lot of times data lakes, data warehouses of proprietary data sources. And this data needs to also, of course, be contextualized to their job role. So if I'm a contact center agent, I need calls in queue and maybe skill sets. But if I'm a supply chain worker, I need access to inventory management systems. But regardless of the job role, all employees need access to what Greg was talking about before, HR data. I need access to my paycheck and my benefits and my PTO calendaring, perhaps my talent management system, my learning management system. So we think it's a real key advantage for any company that has a platform that can unify this data together and use this data for two purposes. One is for performance management. Again, we're talking about the contact center supply chain person having that business critical data, but also really to engage and empower the employee with career growth and other types of messages that are data driven as well. So we feel like companies that have this will definitely get an advantage. And again, I would not be a technology guy unless I talk about security a little bit. So the nature of this data, sometimes it's innocuous, sometimes it's transient. A call in queue for the last 60 seconds is not that important, it's not that sensitive, but name, address, paycheck information is very important. So you need to make sure that you're surfacing this data across the enterprise. You're able to talk to employees, give them this data, but it has to be done in a secure fashion. That's extremely important. The other key trend that I've noticed is really around automation. And just real quick, we know communicators are really overworked. They've got a small department that has to communicate to thousands of employees. So really having automation around content is going to be a key to future success. We can use limited machine learning and some limited AI to use some data mining algorithms much like the Amazon shopping cart works, where, hey, people that have bought this item have bought other items, we can do the same thing with internal employee communications content, and we can learn, hey, employees that have engaged with this content have also gone on to engage with other content. This way we can automatically rotate it into the publishing schedule and kind of give it the ability to be hands-free, set it and forget it, if you will. And again, we feel like companies that have this technology will have a leg up on the competition.